What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some first impressions of Elex 2, which will have launched yesterday from the time of this video. So I played the original Elex and did a review after 100% on it, which is what I normally do, and that takes some time. So when games release, I usually release these first impressions videos just to kind of talk about the game and my initial experience. But I enjoyed playing through Elex so much that I have been very excited for the sequel, so it has been fun to jump into this title. And in a lot of ways, I would say that Elex 2 is pretty much just what I expected it to be. So the developer PirahnaBytes is known for a very particular style of game, having worked on, of course, Elex, but also the Gothic series as well as Risen. And they have a reputation for a very specific type of game. And that is to say, a very stat-focused RPG style game. Now, while the game is of course third person, a lot of what you can do and your ability really boils down to your stats. So as you level up, you'll get stats with some diminishing returns. And at the beginning of the game, you are very weak, and then you slowly build up your character over the course of the game, and then you get very strong. Some people don't enjoy that kind of experience, which is honestly understandable in my opinion. But I really enjoyed the charm of Elex. And again, Elex 2 is just more of that. It really just took a lot of the systems from the first game and kind of expanded on them a bit, as well as continues the story, as Elex 2 is a direct sequel from the first game. As such, they did take a canon ending from the first game, which I would have preferred they left a little more wide open myself. However, they did nonetheless wipe the slate, so to speak, on a lot of stuff. It's been like 10 or so years, best I can tell, from the original Elex, but your character, Jax, who you play as, has a canonicized romance from the first game, which led to his son being born, which is part of this game. And as such, we get to see the consequences, at least, of those specific decisions represented in the second game here pretty much right off the bat. We meet very important characters from the first game, telling us about things that have been going on. So I've been really appreciating that from a lore perspective, as I personally enjoyed the story of Elex quite a bit. Now that said, gameplay-wise, Elex 2 is the ever so slightly janky AA experience that Elex is in a lot of ways. But I will say the beginning of the game is a bit smoother. So in Elex, the beginning of the game is very, very rough. Until you get some levels under your belt, you're going to have a bad time. Whereas in Elex 2, it seems like they took some steps to really smooth out the beginning experience of the game, as it handles much, much better in terms of player experience, and you're not just getting absolutely wrecked by everything you see. And while you are still a fairly weak character at the beginning, they don't just overwhelm you with incredibly strong enemies right out of the gate. And what's more, they actually give you a variety of weapons like right at the beginning of the game as well. So in the first game, ranged weaponry in basically every form, be that bows or the guns from the technology that the clerics have, or even the powers granted by the Elex itself, all of your ranged weapon capabilities were very stunted in the first game until you got much, much later. Whereas in the second game here, they just kind of hand you a few, more or less, right out of the gate, which I thought was nice, honestly. But all that said, guys, again, just to wrap up my impressions here, Elex 2 seems to be a slightly expanded version of the original Elex, which is more or less what I expected, and I'm looking forward to jumping into it, as I personally enjoyed Elex very much, and I'm looking forward to running through this one, 100%ing everything, seeing everything there is to see, and seeing how it stacks up in its entirety against the first game. But so far, it's been a pleasant experience, albeit a AA one. All that said, truly, just thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But truly, just thank you. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.